All right, so if your client automations usually perfectly, work perfectly fine for the first 60 to 90 days, but then something just happens, something just clicks, and the things just start breaking. And if you're thinking that it happens because of the bad tools or your bad choices of the nodes or modules inside the automation in the workflow, then my friend, you're already wrong. And you're probably thinking in the wrong direction, and thinking in the wrong direction won't help you solve the problem in its own, right? So yeah, that's it. That is why this video is going to be really helpful for you because I'm going to exactly break like what are the reasons behind automations usually breaking after a period of 90 to 100 days, right? After you actually implement it into a business's system. Or if you're a business yourself and you usually get these systems or these automations implemented for yourself, and they usually just start to break in after a period of 90 to 100 days, then of course this video is going to be for you. Now, without any further ado, let's just start with whatever I have here. So, first of all, that automations don't actually break after 90 days. It's just that the business evolves faster than the automation. So what I mean by that is, this first point actually is going to help you a lot to understand that very well. So it's like business operations and processes are moving. They are constantly upgrading, some changes are being made, but on the other hand, the automations are static. They are like how you left them to be. So they aren't going to get upgraded themselves, or the information or the node settings, module settings, they aren't going to get upgraded until you actually do it. So the thing is that businesses evolve like either weekly or monthly or quarterly. These offers get repositioned or these pricing tiers change. New upsells appear, sales team adds some other scripts which are pretty much different from the previous one, which you probably just use for the automation or the workflow. And maybe the founder tests something real quick just to see here and there what changes it makes. So such changes are usually made within the business and automations, of course, how could they possibly adapt to those changes themselves until you actually manually do that, right? So that's the whole thing. And now these were just the examples of how businesses evolve. There are a lot of other situations how businesses evolve and how that directly affects the automation or the workflow part of the things. But I hope you understand the main point that I'm making here that because of these changes, the information you've put in the workflow, in the automation, or how you've filled up those nodes, what credentials you've used for for those nodes. These things don't generally stay the same for a longer period of time. They get updated, and they need to be updated in the automation or the workflow itself as well, right? So that was the first one, and most automations fail because not because they're bad, but because they're just loyal to their past, right? A lot of our stories. But anyways, just not mentioning that. Let's come to the second point, which is tool updates and API changes. So, see, the thing is that every automation stack is like just includes CRMs, payment processors, forms and calendars, AI tools, or LLM nodes, or all those things, all those tools, right? Now, the thing is that either some changes are made to the tool or some updates are made to the tool. So let's say you're using now if you're a developer, only then would you be understanding what I'm saying right here for this single minute. So like let's say you use a HTTP node to send up a request somewhere, right? And guess what? That tool actually gets updated and coincidentally, that format you're using for the HTTP request, even that gets updated. So you see, like once that format gets updated, literally your automation is just broke because now that format won't work, and now that format won't work, then the node won't work, and because the node won't work, then the automation won't work. That's how simple it is, right? And because of these API changes as well, a lot of the times these tools, these AI tools right there, and these LLMs, they even have a lot of API changes in themselves, which do need to be taken care of regularly, or unless they would just create these errors for you, or just these automations will break. So each one updates independently, changes logic, deprecates features, and rotates auth tokens. So again, if you're a developer yourself, only then would you understand this, that the logic or the HTTP request formats of these tools, they get updated. Some features get deprecated or some other features gets added because of which these tools need to be updated inside the workflow or the automation. And these auth tokens, they get rotated, they get changed every now and then. So that's a major thing with these APIs and these tokens and these tools in general, right? So that was the first one. Like all these OAuth tokens get expired, these field or ID name changes. So let's say we're just using any a random node, and let's say we're using a Google Sheet node. Okay, this is a hypothetical example. So let's say we're using a Google Sheet node, and here we just have a field name such as XYZ. A month later, when Google Sheets has an update in itself, then it might be possible that that field name or that ID name is now changed. And if when that's changed, our whole automation would break because our whole automation is just dependent. I mean, in a lot of other nodes in that automation, maybe that field name is getting used, right? Or that field name's value is getting used. So if you're understanding what I'm saying, not specifically for Google Sheets, of course. Google Sheets doesn't have such updates that just changes these field or ID names. But I just gave you a hypothetical example, which could be possible for any other tool out there, right? These webhook schema updates. So even those webhook requests you get either for post or get or other such, put requests, the schema gets updated. So anywhere where when you're not using a legit webhook node, but rather some coding stuff or some HTML stuff or some schema, right? Some JSON stuff, then it might be a problem for you because the schema might be just changed, okay, or updated. Again, this video is mostly going to be for the developers. For the business owners, you might get a rough idea of what I'm talking about, or like what are the actual reasons behind this happening. This is not actually the fault of the guy who did it for you, but this just happens, and that's why you need maintenance and regular checkups for these automations and workflows, right? It isn't completely sunshine and rainbows that no errors would be caused and you don't have to do any manual work, neither does your team have to do it, and this automation will just do it. It doesn't need any maintenance or checkup and stuff. It isn't that colorful. Uh, does have some errors of its own as well. But yeah. Anyways, let's just get into this third point, which is clients often start freestyling. Okay, so now of course, if you're a business owner yourself, you might relate to this that often when these things happen, these automations or these systems or these workflows, when you get themselves set up for yourself, you often get this urge, right? You often get this tickling to try something new or try something that you just found out on the internet, let's say on a random YouTube video, and you just want to, try it, maybe just find out if this thing makes your system better or if this thing actually gives you better results than the things you already have in place. So yeah, there could be a lot of such situations, but eventually what ends up happening is clients start freestyling with the tools, with some changes in the automations or the workflows. And what happens is they eventually just end up trying to update the automations or systems by themselves, and which then most probably results in more errors. Because of course, see, the automation or the workflow was made by a skilled developer. It wasn't made by some guy who just learned AI automations and these workflows and this technical stuff just a few weeks or even a few months ago, like 2, 3 months, right? Isn't done by such an immature guy. The one who did it actually has spent a lot of time building his skills and building his experience into it and understanding the things here and there. So it is pretty much understandable. It is pretty much definite that you, as a business owner, or you, as just a random normal person, you won't have the real idea to how to make these changes to it or how to do it correctly, right? So it isn't like you just make some changes to it and nothing else happens. Everything would happen completely smooth and without any other external errors, right? It isn't practical in some sense. So that's what I'm saying, that a single field or expression changes and the whole automation breaks. So, okay, now again, if you're a normal person, if you're a random person who knows nothing or very less about these automations and stuff, then you might not know what I'm saying. But a developer might know that if there's even a single field or a single expression change in the node or in the fields you're using in the automation, literally the whole automation would break. Because if a single error occurs even then, the whole automation just breaks because now, because of that error, you're just not going to get the right information to continue with the workflow. So the workflow is going to break and literally the whole thing's going to stop there. So you just might not want to freestyle yourself, right? Automations actually rely on exact field names, exact values, exact triggers. To make it the most simplest I can, it's like, let's say we're using some field value, let's say we're using an account number, okay? There's this field that we're using as an account number. Let's say we have automated some of our accounting operations, and there's this Google Sheets which has a column named as account number. So the thing is, even if there are some changes to the uppercase or the lowercase things of the field name, let's say in the actual Google Sheets, the name of the column is capital A, then account number, and in the automation you actually do it with like all lowercase letters, and even the A, the accounts A is lowercase. Even then, a big error might be caused, and the whole automation might break. So that is the point that I'm making here, that you just do a single very minor change to whatever is related to that workflow or automation, and literally the whole thing would break. It'll just fall down like a Lego building or something. Okay. So yeah, that was the thing. And let the businesses know from the very start. So if you're a developer, this is for you. That if you're a developer, then let the businesses know as soon as you start dealing with them that even the smallest change in the automation or anything, any tool used in the automation, even a single change, even a single minor change to it can cause the automation to eventually break, and then the operation would just be stopped for a while until that thing's eventually fixed, right? And that would, of course, cause them some extra headache, which of course nobody wants. So yeah, that's the thing, that avoid freestyling with whatever tools or automations or workflows you have, and rather just let the developer do it for you. So that was the third one, and now finally we're getting to the fourth one, which is the last one even, and which is a no feedback loop. So this one's actually very pretty easy to understand, that most automations do not have any error reporting or error handling or any alerts or these human review cycles. So what ends up happening is that when, let's say, you have a workflow, you have a system set up for yourself, and there a an error arises, but that error is not like a legit error or not a solid error, which can actually cause the whole automation to break. So let's say this error is caused, but it's not that big that the automation just stops working. What's going to happen is, if you don't have a correct feedback loop set up for yourself, or these things that I mentioned here, error reporting, alerts, human review cycles, when you don't have these things set up for yourself, then you're just not going to know if the workflow is about to break. So let's say this thing caused, this error caused, and if you have a right or this correct system set up for yourself for this no feedback thing, this feedback thing and these correct error reporting, error handling alerts, then once this error gets caused, either your team or the developer might be just instantly notified that this thing might result in an error, or this thing might not be working really well, or something like that. Okay, something of that nature. So what's going to happen is, once you get that notice, once you get that emergency message, somebody's going to step forward and literally just fix that thing. But if you don't have the right system, right feedback loop, or right feedback system, or these error reporting, error handling, human review cycles set up for yourself, then you're just not going to know until the automation actually breaks. So when there's a potential chance that the automation might break later because of something, or because of something happening, then you might just not know, and you will just not get notified until the automation eventually just breaks, and you lose some operational time or some operational uh, output and stuff, for example. So yeah, like that's the whole thing. And so when something breaks, no one knows. And just like that, systems often just rot. Because rot in the sense that they're just not fixed. The errors are just not fixed for a longer period of time, and then just the automation just eventually break, and then it might just cause you to not get your desired output from that system, or whatever the significant purpose, the core purpose of that system is, right? So some silent automation failures are going to cost you more. Okay, those automation failures might be silent, and of course they are silent, and because you're not getting notified for it, and they might just cost you more because you didn't have some supporting pillars for that, or some feedback loop set up for yourself, right? This is mostly the developer's responsibility, or whatever guy is setting up your automations or your systems, or whoever's building these systems. It's usually their not usually, but 100% of the times, it is their responsibility to set up correct feedback loops and these error reporting things, or these systems completely. So they are the ones that are completely accountable for this, right? None of your concerns, but just make sure if you're using some systems or some automations, and if you're watching this video as a business owner or someone who has these systems implemented for yourself, then just make sure that you just take care of this thing, this fact. that these feedback loops are not often built by developers. Okay, they often skip on that part. So, like these were the core 4 points, the major points why client automations usually break after a 90-day period. 90 days, it was just a an average estimate. It's not that like it's not like on the 91st day, literally everything would break and it's like supposed to break. Not like that, but that's usually the time when a lot of changes occur in the business, or clients often do something of their own into the workflow. They just make some changes on all that stuff. So usually it's a period of 90 days, because before that, of businesses often are aware of the fact that okay, this thing, this tool, or this program, this information is connected with the system or the automation, and we might not want to make some changes, or we might not want to get our hands over it for now, because that things was just set up a few weeks ago or only a few months ago, right? So that's the thing. But after this 90-day period, just some things start to change, some things start to break, and that's how these errors happen. So, regular maintenance and checks are the key to success. So, if you're a business owner or if you're a developer yourself, then just make sure that these regular maintenance are and checks are actually taken care of, because they are the key to success when it comes to automations and workflows. And that is like what I've noticed, that these one-time setup systems often face a lot of errors until the business actually has a team which takes care of these automations, and which who are skilled in these in this automation space, and who have some knowledge about these workflows and how do they work and how to make some changes there. So until the business actually has some members or some employees having that skill set, you as a developer actually have to be there, present there, to do some regular maintenance and checks for the automations or the workflows, that the things are the way they are, the way you left them, running completely smooth, and with no errors. Okay. So yeah, that was the whole thing that I had for the video. And these were the 4 points why client automations usually break after 90 days. Alright, so now I hope I made myself really articulate and really clear throughout the video, and I explained these three or 4 points to you with utter clarity, utter articulation, and so that you could understand it really well, even if you're a developer or a business owner, right? So yeah, that was the whole thing. Now, if you're a business owner who's looking forward to getting such automations or systems implemented for yourself, or usually the ones which I upload on my channel, and usually what I talk about, I have some videos about, like a lead reactivation system, or an onboarding system, or some invoicing follow-up systems, or some others like that. So if you need them implemented for your business, then I'll just have a link in the video's description. You can just check the link and you can just reach me there. We can just set up a conversation real quick, and I can just we can have a discussion, we can have a conversation about how this thing can be done. Or on the other hand, if you're just a business owner who's looking forward to getting an audit, an AI audit for yourself, audit basically where someone like me comes in who has experience in this AI automation space and who has set up some automations here and there for other businesses, just comes in and views areas inside your business, views your operations, does some discovery, does some synthesis, and just figures out some ways or figures out some areas which can be potentially automated and which can potentially save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of manual work. Even then, that link will just help you, and you can just set up a conversation with me there. And I can just come in and take a sneak peek into your business and look for the areas which can be automated and give you a pretty much a good, decent brief of what can be potentially done. Okay, so yeah, that was the whole thing. I hope you really, really liked the whole video. I'll see you in the next one, and until then, bye bye.